Hi everyone, my name is Miss Mmehela Kumbi. I'm a registered industrial and organizational psychology. Do join me yet again on this short clip that will give a brief summary of what happens once you've registered as an industrial psychologist with the HPCSA. Our previous video spoke on the pathway to registration as a registered profession in the field or in the space of industrial or IO psychology. So on this video, we will talk about aspects related to once you've registered, what path one needs to follow, and what opportunities are there for registered industrial psychologist. This is after you've written your board exams and now you are a qualified industrial psychologist in the context of South Africa, of course. There are plenty of opportunities as an industrial and organizational psychology, whether you're going to be doing it as an independent practice or whether you are going to be obviously practicing under an organization. That means that if you're going to be hired, and also does it mean that if you're hired, can you practice or can you not practice? We still have to cover a bit of that. Okay, so after you've registered as an industrial psychologist, you can work on site. On site, it means that you can be hired as an industrial psychologist in a specific organization under a specific role. I'll try to go through that. I'll try to cover that a bit on what is it that needs, like which roles can we play after registrations, as well as you can also work in academia. That means that you can also be a lecturer. Obviously, the training in any higher institution that offers a professional master's, that is master's in coursework, should be delivered by individuals that are registered. So if you want to maybe teach at a level of an industrial psychologist in academia or higher institution, you need to be registered as well. So you can also go into an academic space, go be a lecturer, a lecturer or a teacher. I don't know which way you're gonna prefer it. So and then there's independent practice as well as on-site as well as academia. So that's pretty much it. And other ones I don't know, but I'm just gonna share on the top 3 ones that are mostly relevant and popular currently in South Africa. So let's try to talk about the on-site psychologist. That is the industrial psychologist hired in a specific organization. I will touch base on maybe organizational development and change management, maybe specialist, as well as talent management and human resource or human management specialist, as well as maybe labor relations and psychometric assessment and testing specialist, as well as training and development specialist. These are individuals that are hired as industrial psychologists. So you can be hired in an organization as an organizational development and change management or change manager specialist, however they rephrase it. But in most cases, in this spaces or in these roles, you are required to be a registered industrial psychologist in most spaces, which means you need to be complying with the regulations under the HPCSA conducts. So after you register, after you pass your board exam, you need to understand that the HPCSA requires us to align with their ethical and professional compliance as professional practitioners. So you need to be professionally in conduct with their policies and regulations in maintaining your registration under the HPCSA. That means in terms of any ethical conduct that needs to be done, your confidentiality, informed consent, you know how ethics go along. You need to be in line with their policies with regards to how should an industrial psychologist conduct themselves when it comes to confidentiality, as well as your informed consent that deals with everything that is maybe related to information of a client and the sorts, as well as any ethical rules and conduct related to you as an practitioner practicing in the context of South Africa, as well as the CPD points, continuous development, learning or trainings you are supposed to and you are required to align with the continuous transformation development of knowledge in the space of psychology. So that is very, very, very much important. So hired as an industrial and organizational psychology in an organization that we call it an on-site IO psychologist. Most spaces it will be an organizational development or change management. This is wherein we dealing with concept of designing, implementing any organizational change initiatives that has to do with or related to the culture and change structures within organizations, and which will be emphasized in an aspect wherein we need to draw in employee engagement surveys. Then in aspect or concept related to leadership transformation or team development facilities or programs. So that is the space of an organizational development specialist or a change specialist in an organization. They will primarily deal with those concepts. Then there's also the talent management and human resource manager or human resource specialist in an organization as an industrial psychologist. You might be in a position wherein your responsibilities aligns with maybe the human capital strategy advisory, wherein maybe you are enabled to provide advices in terms of organizations on talent management, talent growth, talent transformation, succession planning, as well as workplace optimism. As well, before I continue, also note that sometimes you can be hired as a human resource manager, but you are registered as an industrial psychologist. These are two different things. It means that if I'm hired in an organization XYZ as a human resource manager, maybe because an additional requirement was that I'm a registered industrial psychologist, it doesn't mean that I am going to be an industrial psychologist in that space. Yeah, please also note that it's also different when a specific organization ABC wants an industrial psychologist in their human resource context, or the HR aspect, or the HR department. In that department, there will be an HR manager as well as an industrial psychologist. So an industrial psychologist will be employed on specific requirements and responsibilities different from that one of an HR manager. So it's not the same things. But at the end of the day, the good thing is that we are able to do both roles. Isn't that nice? Yes, it's very nice. Then in the aspect of human resource, yes, I'm still talking about the talent as well as the human resource management or context, wherein after registration you can work in that space. Yeah. And the other concept as a hired on-site industrial psychologist is related to psychometric assessment and testing. This has to do with maybe you might be responsible for administering or conceptualizing, scoring, interpreting psychological assessments that are related to maybe leadership transformation, development, and selections in an organization. And maybe in terms of choosing relevant instruments that are related to the context of transformation in an organization, leadership development, as well as team development, team structures, even individual development. So our responsibility in this aspect is either we administer, score, and interpret psychological assessment in that space. as well as in terms of designing assessment centers for selection and development, and providing feedback to individuals and organizations. That is also under the aspect of psychometric assessment and testing as an industrial psychologist on site. The other one has to do with labor relations and policy development related to maybe concept under labor relations actually. So this one also, you might be hired as a labor relations or a policy development specialist under the labor relations context or specifics, where you will be dealing with advices or providing advisory committees in terms of the labor law compliance, employee relations, dispute resolutions, trade unions, your CCMA, and all that drama. This emphasizes the contribution of policy formulation of specific organization, wherein your concept in terms of recommendations of workplace behavior and ethics and policies aligns, mediating in workplaces conflicts as well as fostering healthy labor relations. It's also our role. So you can be hired as a labor relations specialist under the concept of an industrial psychologist, where wherein the relatedness of your responsibility will have to deal with anything related to employee relations. Then we also have training development specialist, or development, training and learning in organizations. As an on-site industrial psychologist, what does it mean? It means with this has to do more with career psychology, because you can be a career psychology specialist, in an organization, because these things sometimes they are rephrased some differently. Yes. So let's say an organization wants a career psychologist, that deals with training, learning, and development. So it means that your role or your responsibility might have to deal with designing as well as evaluating training programs, coaching and mentoring individuals and teams, on what kind of trainings that needs to be done to transform your learning as you proceed, or any other trainings that you might advise the line managers or executive management in terms of helping the organization as well as the teams and individuals grow, and anything that can also be related to employee wellness as well as work-life balance can also be part of training, learning, and development. But that also falls part of OD. Maybe as an OD specialist, you can be in a position wherein offering a concept of facilitating any employee wellness, work-life balance initiatives in organizations, as well as conducting stress management and resilience workshops under the training and learning development aspect. So I think in the meantime, I'll just stop there with regards to on-site psychologist. Then I will move to independent practice. That is wherein you are an independent practitioner. You're consulting, you have opened a practice. What is it that you need to do? It's pretty much similar to what I explained with regards to an on-site industrial psychologist. But this one also, under the HPCSA website, there is also guidelines on how and what needs to be done from the spaces or from the side of an on-site consultant, not from an on-site consultant, from an independent practitioner, a consulting psychologist. So this is wherein you consult with different organizations. For instance, maybe Bank XYZ want leadership transformation because maybe their leaders are not progressing. There's less or lack of engagement with regards to leaders, and this also has affected maybe the individuals under them, the ones that they are they are actually managing. So sometimes if the leader is not doing well, there's also a high possibility that the individuals that they are managing might not do well. So let's say then a Bank XYZ wants to hire an industrial psychologist wherein they can do a leadership transformative initiative for their leaders. So this is where in you can come, and consult, maybe under the aspect of OD consulting, or OD's organizational development consultant, where now that's where you can do your grounded OD interventions, and then do your research, your surveys, your need of analysis in terms of that specific organization. Then you can start designing interventions that can improve the culture, the performance of the leaders, as well as the change and readiness initiative within that specific organization. You can also maybe suggest or recommend coaching and leadership development in terms of providing executive and performance coaching initiatives to the leaders. So what I'm saying is that you can also be in a space where you can practice as a coach. But coaching and being a psychologist and consulting are also different, but you can still be you can consult as a coach, but that also you need to read more about it on the HPCSA, because there also are guidelines with regards to that. And the other one is to maybe hold training facilitation for the organization. I mean, it will also depend on how you have done your survey, and your diagnosis with regards to the organization, what diagnosis came out from that challenge or error that the organization might be facing. So, designing orientated structure with regards to what is needed for that organization to function better. Then you can also recommend or suggest any psychometrics assessment that can work for that organization as well. So this is an individual who is practicing independently, then gets hired, or they move around different organizations in terms of change or culture, organizational development, and the sorts. I hope that is clear. So don't forget, you need to be registered, you need to be compliant with the HPCSA. So we're gonna move on to the next aspect, which is the academic space. How and what is required, and how does one maneuver into that space? Then now moving into the academic space, this is wherein registered industrial psychologists are not practicing, they are delivering their responsibilities in a higher learning institutions as lecturers. So in an academic space, in the South African context, most universities, so to say, will require one individual to have a master's in industrial psychology, so to say. So you need to hold a master's in your hands, maybe, as well as, I don't know if you want to proceed with your PhD, but that is a well recommended requirement as well. So, however, if you are in a space wherein you need to lecture under this aspect of masters in coursework, you need to be registered with the HPCSA, but that is why we are here. So this is for individuals who are passionate about teaching or transformational learning. If you are one of those who would like to give back to the community in terms of learning and teaching the other individuals who wish to be industrial psychologists somehow, because as people we don't have the same end goal. Some, they just want to do independent practice. Some don't have a problem with being hired as industrial psychologists in organizations. Some also don't have an issue with being academics. Some just want to be academics. Literally, not everyone is going to be painted with the same brush. So let's say you want to be in an academic space, or you find yourself in an academic space. What are your roles? What are your responsibilities, as well as what is required? Obviously, you need to be registered as an industrial psychologist with the HPCSA. We are emphasizing that. And then in compliance with the HPCSA guidelines, ethical guidelines and policies and rules. Where do we find that? We find that in their website. Go there and read, because it will also help you when you are gonna write your board exam. So familiarize yourself with that context and that information under their website, particularly the Annexure 12, because it guides us on what is it that needs to be done, how do we conduct ourselves as we practice, even in training and development and learning. So in the training space, this is like the higher education and training context. You are going to be responsible for teaching as well as lecturing, and this means that you might be responsible for teaching undergrad, postgraduate, as well as master's levels, and with regards to modules or content related to industrial psychology. So this one, you are going to have to comply with the specific university's requirement to be a lecturer. At the same time, obviously align with the HPCSA's guidelines to be a lecturer at a specific higher institution or higher learning institution. Some of the other responsibility in that space would also require you to be a supervisor. You might also be responsible for supervision. It means that you might be supervising student. Some of the honor students, some in certain universities, they do have like supervision, like that is like your moderate supervisors towards moving into the master's level. So you might be required to be a supervisor as well as a supervisor on the master's level. This is wherein you will be supervising student on their research outcomes as research project, as well as the practical learning within that research projects. Because during the master space, students will do their M1. This is where in an academic space, the M1 under the Masters in Professional Registration, the coursework, now you're going to be like an on-site lecturer where you might as well conduct lecturers because there are block weeks and the sorts and all those kind of things. So if you're going to be doing those things, you need to be knowledgeable around the concept of industrial psychology as a lecturer. And then after their M1, once they're done with their modules, and that will also depend on a specific university, how many modules and the sorts and all those kind of things. I won't go deep into that, not today. But then, and then now you're done with your M1, your M2, it's wherein now the student are required to do or to provide or to deliver what we call a limited research project. It's a limited scope research project, a mini dissertation. Yeah, so you may be responsible to be a supervisor in that space. And on that as well, there are different requirements with universities on how does one become, or how does one get to be appointed to be a supervisor for master's student. And the other one would be with regards to curriculum design and reviewing. And this also will be aligned with the HPCSA policies and guidelines. So as a registered industrial psychologist, obviously you know that the module content has to be aligned with what the HPCSA would require. So curriculum design and reviewing is also one of the concepts related to being an academic or a lecturer in a universities, as well as research and publication. Very important. You're going to be doing a lot of writing and publishing, because like we said, this has to do with the CPD points as well. It will help you with CPD points. Yeah, literally. So attending conferences as well in an academic space is also required as a lecturer, as an academic, and that also helps with your CPD points. So in an academic space, somehow it's much more a bit less difficult actually to accumulate CPD points, because the university or the specific university requires us to be well informed. It means that we also need to do continuous development. So it means that it aligns on both sides. So either way, if I'm doing this side, then it will mean that I'm gonna cover it for both sides, you know. So other concept is related to community engagement. This is related to the concept of academia. Not sure about what HPCSA say in this regard with regards to community engagement, but I'm sure there is also a guideline related to community engagement, or on how should we conduct ourselves, particularly maybe in the concept of psychometric maybe assessment, or conducting or administering assessment, or psychometric assessment obviously will need to align with the guidelines under HPCSA as an industrial psychologist. It means that if I'm doing career development or career facilitation, anything that is related to career transformation or development of maybe high school student, I need to understand that I'm not going to be conducting any career assessment. Actually, in the aspect of conducting or administering psychometric assessment, I'm not, or we are not actually allowed to deliver psychometric assessment on school children below the ages of 15 years and younger. So if you're doing career assessments and all those kind of things, we're not supposed to do that. So it means that also should align with what the HPCSA guides us. So in terms of academic, I think that is what I'm going to cover for now. It's a very interesting journey, as we have mentioned from our previous video. If you'd like to be an industrial psychologist, it's a very interesting choice and decision, because there's so much that one deals with. It's literally less limited, because you grow in different area and different spaces, as we've mentioned. And you can also tailor make it for yourself, like maybe find a field where you're passionate about. You're passionate about OD, you're passionate about psychological wellness or positive psychology, career development, career psychology, and the sorts, or you are passionate about psychometric assessment. You can actually tailor make it for yourself and focus on that. Do research. As well, don't forget that there are mentorships that you can also maybe tailor make for yourself, as well as make sure that you also reach out to people who can advise you, so that you can expand that network. Thank you.